I'm a conservative in America and I'm watching CNN, just for the straight middle of the road, that's what I hear for 15 minutes, is it's great, and then Lonely Scott. It does look, I mean, and when you see the path, it does look like tokenism. It's kind of like the same as The View.
Recall that moment of astonishment when Kaitlan Collins was ripped up by Bill Maher, and CNN's live broadcast, the one footage caused the internet to go crazy. Quickly became well-known, and people were hammering the replay button as though it were due. They have money. Yet look at that flaming face. Was only the warm-up, which began as a heated argument has gotten out of control. It isn't a complete media breakdown. Longer a heated argument between two. No talking heads, this has become a complete conflict of egos, and it's Bill May is becoming Messier by the minute. Maher isn't playing tricks. Instead, he's boldly pointing out Kaitlan Collins. Shots that don't allow for any misunderstandings. He's not skirting the subject, he's calling her journalism and hitting hard, with some somewhat dubious overtones, and Kaitlan isn't going to back down for nothing. Secondly, she isn't here to be kind or be professional, but nope, Collins is arriving hot and retaliating with the sort of vitality shouting, "I'm done being courteous."
What is the most pressing question, Kaitlan, you would ask VP Harris if you had the chance? Ooh.
I would have a lot of questions for her, but I do think I would ask about, where she stood when she was running as a candidate and for the 2020 Democratic primary, and where she stands on a lot of issues now. She's criticized a lot by Republicans for reversing her positions. I think also, Donald Trump has reversed a lot of his positions from covering those. But I think I would be interested in her evolution and where her instincts are, and what she learned from governing with a moderate like President Biden.
Forsake about any notion of Kaitlan's neutrality has thrown that right, like the script from last week, out the window. The tension is electric now, and it's personal. Both sides are scathing in their comments and going deeper. This is more than just a fight. The media is at war, and we're. As she watches it blow up in real time, she's doing more than just making headlines, constructing tales to suit her own strategy. Collins is being mentioned more and more, is no longer behaving like a journalist. She is becoming self-righteous, with a single mission: take Pitbull locked in, defeating Trump at all costs. And when we claim that she is unrelenting, doesn't even begin to describe the extent of no doubt, no pause, and no indication of reevaluating if she is bending. A loaded question is thrown out in the story, or sporting that smirk while performing my duties. Collins is rushing ahead as if nothing is wrong. She's locked in, therefore it doesn't matter if you so much as challenge her tactics more. Prepare for criticism that it's all. Think again. It's just some fabricated media crap. We unearthed old video that blew the lid off of this whole thing long ago. Maher asked her one, and it all exploded. Query that completely changed the atmosphere. If you and KLA had a private meeting, what would you ask her to do, Harris? Relax, but have a look at that clip. The room's energy shattered, and Collins. Her body language was a scream of tight guardedness. It wasn't about curiosity in defense mode. It has to do with control.
You guys have that debate?
It's ABC debate.
ABC debate.
If it happens, I still think it's an open question.
Really?
Trump's going to go. He's got to.
You think Trump is going to pull out?
I think Trump is nervous about it. I think Trump, I talked to a lot of sources in his world. I think he has really struggled with it. It's not just a narrative or a talking point from Democrats. He really has struggled with how to combat her. And I think going into that debate, he does not really want to do it. I think it's difficult, if not impossible, for him to pull out because his campaign manager had cards printed that said anywhere, anytime, any place for President Biden, and it would look weak. But I don't think he's looking forward to it at this point.
That one instance revealed everything that ignited the spark. After weeks of cold, the fuse, staircases, sketchy photos, and subtle jabs all taking place in real time in front of millions of people, wasn't only tense, it was a serious rivalry simmering in the kettle and on screen, is still boiling over, and it sounds innocuous. What would you ask Kamala first? Harris in a vintage Kaitlan Collins outfit. Way. She sidestepped the inquiry and the entire conversation was somehow redirected back. Donald Trump, you guessed it, a man can be relaxing at Mar-a-Lago, striking golf balls entirely off the grid, and she would continue to drag, adding his name to the mix. It seems as though she keeps thinking about Rentry all the time, is now direct rather than strategic. Collins Trump's fixation isn't he is a walking headline as a former president. Generator, her go-to tool and secret weapon. Trigger word that immediately overwhelms the timeline with viral content and indignation buzz. Footage from the CNN control room, as you may know, is beaming each time she lets go of that name. So why does she continue to do it so easily? Trump is the key to her continued relevance. No pun intended. Her personal trump card. Her audience erupts as soon as she brings him up, and she is aware of it, so she serves it hot repeatedly without, rather than because it's noteworthy, matters, but it keeps because it sells her name in the public eye and maintains a Trump-hating machine that roars like a live TV wildfire. All smoke, no facts. Facts are no longer necessary when people are glued to their screens by fury. Correct, but Bill Maher wasn't on board with. The deed was not visible for a moment. It on his face. He was fully aware of what, on the verge of falling, Kaitlan Collins was preparing to sidestep the inquiry, and Trump was somehow thrown into the mix like. From the beginning, it was scripted, yet. This time, Maher wasn't playing along. He turned the table on her, cutting her in half. Theatrically, they yelled out the spin and actually place her on the location. Time. She didn't anticipate it at all. The next time you could, she was in charge. Actually watch as her self-confidence dwindles. Flawless delivery broke her trust in. Blocking jabs.
I'm not a political pundit trying to analyze this stuff, but I do know that it's a very easy debate to win. So all you have to say is, look, you had 4 years, I had 4 years. When I was president, and when you were president, here's the differences. Gas prices are up 50% when you're vice president. Electricity prices up 30%. Grocery up 22%. The list keeps going. Taxes were lower under Trump. They raised them under Biden-Harris. Regulations were lower under Trump. They raised them under Biden and Harris. Immigration numbers way down. They actually tried to stop the problem. Record numbers under Biden and Harris. This is a very easy debate to win because on the metrics, it's very easy to show side by side.
There was a change in power. Through the screen, you could sense. On her own stage, Collins was overshadowed, and her smile became rigid as she realized it. Her voice sounded frigid, and then all of a sudden she was avoiding as if her life were on the line yet. Maher already had it too late. The playbook was revealed, and everyone was observing, and this is where the real thing begins. The hypocrisy of CNN and Kaitlan's love is juicy. To act as though they are we are merely the gatekeepers of justice. Disclosing the information, they yell on loop. However, we shouldn't fool ourselves about that portion. Ripped off the entire impartial mask. Please act like a journalist if that day comes. Demonstrated anything the neutrality. The emblem they wear is merely for display. The crowd witnessed the performance breaking. Everything they say up and down. They're not advocating for a left-wing viewpoint story, but their movements are as loud as a. Kaitlan Collins didn't have to use a megaphone. Speak it aloud. Her thoughts were already created regarding Trump prior to the election even. Began without discussion or data, and without waiting for facts that she was discussing like his. The stars had already written loss. She simply neglected to mention who gave it to us. Where is the objectivity in the script? Because she wasn't dissecting she was serving up her own demise in the debate, as though she was guided by a crystal ball. Her analysis, which was all wrapped up in a tidy small journalism-labeled package. So much for speaking with reason. This was a direct approach, rather than a strategy. Wishful thinking, no voter, no receipts. Insight, no new ideas, just blatant prejudice on. Trump wasn't a rerun in Collins' universe. She wasn't even in the race anymore. No need to conceal it. Let's wait and see. Lack of interest in how things could truly unfold. She has already written the Trump was toast at the end, but here's the twist. She wasn't being followed by reality. Script, its plans were different, and Maher timed each move like a sniper, cool-headedly waiting to jump, since if there's one thing Maher finds, its phony media intolerable. Drama masquerading as reality, and when the moment arrived, he delivered it crisply. May at his best was unmissable, cutting like an expert through the cacophony.
You made press because you were on Stephen Colbert's show, and he said something like, you guys at CNN just report the news straight, and the crowd burst into laughter. Look, I'm on CNN now. I guess we're on it right now. I mean, they show this show the next night. I don't know how we get away with it with all but they do. And all these dirty jokes. But I'm glad, and I'm a big rooter for CNN. But that tells you a lot, doesn't it?
Kaitlan was unaware of what was about to happen. She was so preoccupied with creating her own version of reality, believing she was in control. However, the mayor was already 5 paces away. The setup went smoothly in advance, and the trap was Collins and she walked straight into each other. Let's now discuss that so-called. To be honest, the discussion was a breeze. Park for Trump feels like a home court. He only needed to arrive and take the mic and deliver the facts to the audience. Remind them of the true appearance of things. When he was in charge of the booming foreign economy, border closed down, policy on point, and continued respect for the world. Currently, contrast it with the Biden, the instability and discord of the Harris era. Trump didn't fully address the uncertainty. Punches must be thrown because the contrast spoke more powerful than words just by being. The story was sufficiently shaken by what was seen. Really, why would he neglect it? And the reason Kaitlan's view was so strange, why was she even saying that, was similar to the idea of Trump destroying. Her brain was broken on that stage. Couldn't accept it or process it. The notion of his appearing in a commanding, too much energy flipping in the room. For her, and as she was disintegrating, Maher watched her spin out while he sat back, awaiting the ideal moment to arrive. And he struck hard when he did. So instead of confronting what might possibly occur, Kaitlan created her own virtual world, one in which Trump either gave up or bombed spectacularly, all of which were made up to lessen the impact if things didn't go her way, and if things began to find flaws in her account of what happened. No biggie, she had a fallback move. The win before it actually occurred. With flair, she's evading reality. Didn't merely criticize, she submitted a complete thunderstorm before to the procession. Even immediately ejected Kaitlan. Asserted that Trump will burn and crash on stage since he would deviate from the script. That her grandiose theory lacked logic and proof. Just another anti-Trump, dusty, recycled. The soundbite is probably loaded and locked prior to the cameras even starting to roll. Journalism wasn't what this was. Analysis. The damage was preventive. Kaitlan understood control, plain and simple. Maher was aware of what might occur, what was going to happen, and to be honest, he appeared to be having fun with the meltdown as she continued to delve deeper into spin mode, since Kaitlan secretly wasn't telling the truth. Instead, she was preparing, because she was aware that Trump had stepped on. That phase could turn the entire story. So tell me about her strategy. Putting him down before he could even talk. But the true problem is this.
CNN being a place of credibility. I mean, look at what just happened in Chicago. We had 300 people from CNN on the ground covering that convention. There were several reporters from just our team alone on the floor, bringing it in real time to people. And I think CNN puts resources behind things and just brings a level of news that you don't get anywhere else.
Kaitlan, with her team at CNN, cannot bear the reality of why Trump continues to draw crowds that he doesn't adhere to. A script, his entire brand is unpolished, spontaneous, and directly from the heart. He speaks in a backyard like your uncle. Barbecue, not a well-rehearsed puppet show. Teleprompter-generated bullet points and That is precisely the reason he is dangerous. To them, his fans devour it because, without any filters or rehearsals, it feels authentic. Simply raw mayhem, and they adore it. But to the media elite and Kaitlan, these people are living off of that nightmare. Prepared questions with strict control, sanitized claims and rhetoric, so when someone like Trump appears, they throw. The entire playbook is in the garbage. He doesn't play, and is left fumbling their game, and that is quite frightening of them. So Kaitlan brushed in secret, dismissing him as though he didn't matter. She wasn't merely taking a chance, but panicking was not a sign of confidence. Her bias is fear disguised as arrogance. Her objective was clearly and completely revealed. Maher noticed that everything was waiting for you, could see by the look in his eyes that he knew the precise moment she slipped and the moment he hit. She wasn't prepared for this. The truth is that nobody is purchasing the performance no longer allows Kaitlan to board a few softer-toned panels attempt to act. CNN unexpectedly discovered a neutral pretend balance, but it's obvious to the viewer. It's merely decorative and not journalism. Tidy up a small political cover-up over a severely damaged reputation. It's not working for the viewers, Kaitlan are aware of it, and Maher observes it. Crystal clear token for a guest seat here. It's all smoke there, conservatives. And mirrors are a TV trick, but when the glitz is removed, the reality tells you straight out that CNN's bias isn't subtly yelling, "Let's talk numbers." So the numbers don't lie for every. There's a conservative voice and a friendly for regulars with a left-leaning panel, prepared to suffocate them, and they dare. Come on, that balanced call isn't a discussion, it's a Puritan monologue with. The background noise isn't relevant to journalism. The performance is manipulated and the so-called conservative window. They throw that lone voice into the dressing, then turn around in the lion's lair and utter, "You're not fair." See, we're fair. Adding some phony neutrality on top, and hoping that the viewers don't notice. The setup, and now for the really amazing part. Even when a conservative is shown on CNN, there is never anyone who speaks. No, they handpick the movement. The safest alternatives certified by the soft beltway. Kinds that haven't had any impact at the grassroots. Problems since the first term of Obama, the ones who would prefer to drink wine in Georgetown. Fundraisers as opposed to standing in the rain alongside. For actual voters, it's all show and no substance. Merely enough phony variety to avoid the criticism and the audience they've reached. Maher, who was playing along, observed it and named it. And Collins is still making an effort to act as though the house of cards is not trembling. The kind of person who never gives up on their profession. Moderates or insiders in the establishment who, on every major, nod to the left. Climate change issue, immigration check, verify foreign policy again. The only conservative aspect of them is CNN displays the label on the screen for show, and the network obtains access to exhale and declare. Observe both. Representation of both views. But come on, we know what narrative control actually is in disguise.
I'm a conservative in America, and I'm watching CNN just for the straight middle of the road. That's what I hear for 15 minutes. It's great, and then Lonely Scott. It does look, and when you see the path, it does look like tokenism. It's kind of like the same as The View. It's like it's almost better to have nobody there, like MSNBC, than to have just the